The phone rang at 2:30 in the morning on October 23, 1998, pulling Detective Miller from a shallow sleep, informing him that the man they had strong reason to believe had just brutally murdered Jane Doe in Willow Creek, Pennsylvania, was now unequivocally across the Ohio state line, less than 72 hours after her body was found, and before a formal arrest warrant had even been signed by a judge. This was not a pursuit, not an escape, but a carefully timed departure, precisely calibrated to exploit a flaw in the very foundation of justice. You see, the paperwork, the signatures, the jurisdictional ballet that was supposed to bring him to justice moved at a bureaucratic crawl, while Arthur Finch, their prime suspect, moved with chilling efficiency. This investigation will peel back the official file on Jane Doe, revealing not just the undeniable evidence pointing directly at Finch, but the invisible legal barrier that allowed him to vanish into plain sight. We will uncover how the specific timing of his flight transformed a clear suspect into an untouchable individual, even with a mountain of compelling evidence, and why that critical arrest warrant never materialized. This is not just a story of a killer who got away. It is a chilling indictment of how the lines we draw on maps can become impenetrable walls against justice itself. The initial call came into the Willow Creek Police Department just before noon on October 20th, 1998. A local hiker, trekking through the secluded woods near Miller's Pond, stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him for the rest of his life. There, partially concealed by overgrown brush, was the body of a young woman. Her identification, a driver's license found in her purse nearby, identified her as Jane Doe, a 27-year-old resident of the small town, known for her quiet demeanor and dedication to her work as a librarian at the public library. The scene was immediately secured, the gravity of the discovery settling over the responding officers like a shroud. This was not an accident. This was a deliberate act of violence. The medical examiner's preliminary assessment, later detailed in the official autopsy report, case file PA 98347, confirmed extensive trauma, ruling the death a homicide. Investigators worked tirelessly, canvassing Jane's neighborhood, speaking with her colleagues, and piecing together her final days. Her car was found parked neatly in her driveway, her apartment undisturbed, suggesting she had been abducted elsewhere or confronted at her home. Early leads pointed quickly to Arthur Finch, a man Jane had reportedly dated for a few months before ending the relationship just weeks prior. Witnesses confirmed a tumultuous split, with Finch allegedly struggling to accept the breakup. A neighbor, Mrs. Eleanor Vance, told detectives she had seen Finch's distinctive green pickup truck parked outside Jane's apartment complex late on the night of October 19th, only hours before the estimated time of death. Furthermore, Finch had a history of minor arrests related to domestic disturbances in a neighboring county, detailed in archived local news reports from the Willow Creek Gazette. All signs pointed to him, but then, on October 23rd, 2 days after Jane Doe's body was found, a critical detail emerged from Finch's landlord. Arthur Finch had suddenly, and without warning, packed his meager belongings into that same green pickup truck and left his apartment in Willow Creek. His new address? A small town just across the Ohio border. The crack in the official story, the one that would fester for decades, was not the identification of a suspect, but the timing of his departure. The evidence against Arthur Finch was far from circumstantial. The forensic team, led by seasoned investigator Detective Sergeant Reynolds, meticulously processed the crime scene. Footprints matching Finch's shoe size were discovered near the pond's edge, confirmed by casting analysis detailed in the scene reconstruction report, Exhibit C, PA 98347. A single, distinctive button, torn from what appeared to be a work shirt, was recovered entangled in Jane Doe's hair. When Finch's abandoned apartment was searched under an emergency warrant issued on October 24th, a shirt matching the description, missing precisely such a button, was found in his closet. This was not mere coincidence. Furthermore, a statement from Finch's cousin, Paul Henderson, recorded on October 21st, described Finch as agitated and uncharacteristically quiet in the days immediately following Jane's disappearance. Henderson also recalled Finch making a late-night phone call on October 19th, attempting to reconcile with Jane, which she apparently refused. This account, corroborated by Jane's own friends, built a chilling picture of escalating tension and a clear motive. What was missed? What the official story glossed over was the agonizing, glacial pace of jurisdictional authority. Pennsylvania law enforcement had compelling evidence, a clear suspect, and a rapidly developing case. They needed an arrest warrant. But in 1998, the process for securing an interstate warrant, especially one that required immediate extradition, was far more complex and time-consuming than it is today. A local magistrate in Willow Creek could issue an arrest warrant valid within Pennsylvania, but for that warrant to be enforceable across state lines in Ohio, it required additional steps: an affidavit from Pennsylvania authorities, review and endorsement by an Ohio judge, and often an appearance by Pennsylvania prosecutors in an Ohio court to demonstrate probable cause under Ohio's specific legal standards. This wasn't a quick fax and a signature. This was a bureaucratic journey, and Finch knew it. He didn't flee in a panic. He strategically moved. By the time the Willow Creek investigators had sufficiently gathered all the necessary affidavits and witness statements to formally present to a Pennsylvania judge for an initial arrest warrant, a process that took a full 3 days, Finch had already established residency in Ohio. He was no longer a fleeing suspect in hot pursuit crossing a border in the immediate aftermath of a crime, which might have invoked specific federal or interstate compact provisions for immediate arrest. He was now, legally, a resident of Ohio and a potential suspect in a Pennsylvania murder. This distinction, seemingly minor, became an insurmountable wall, a legal precedent often cited in interstate criminal law concerning fugitives, stipulated that for an immediate, non-extradition treaty-based arrest across state lines, the suspect must either be in clear flight or a warrant must have been already issued in the home state before the suspect established new residency. Because Finch crossed over before the Pennsylvania warrant for Jane Doe's murder was formally issued, he was, in the eyes of Ohio law enforcement, without direct assistance from federal agencies, merely a new resident of their state. The initial Willow Creek warrant, once finally signed on October 24th, was immediately sent to Ohio for endorsement, but it hit a wall of procedural delay. Ohio authorities could not simply arrest him without their own legal review, which often took weeks or even months for such a severe charge involving extradition. This created a jurisdictional deadlock. The urgency was lost in the paperwork. Think about that. A suspected killer, with compelling evidence mounting against him, transformed into an untouchable individual, not because of innocence, but because he knew how to exploit the administrative chasm between two states. This case screams for a re-examination through 3 distinct investigative lenses. First, the principle of immediate, proactive, multi-jurisdictional cooperation. In 1998, while interagency collaboration existed, it was often reactive and dependent on established communication channels. Today, advanced information sharing systems and federal task forces, like the FBI's Fugitive Task Force, can almost instantly flag suspects across state lines, even before a formal warrant is issued, based on strong probable cause and intelligence. Had such systems been as robust and ubiquitous back then, an immediate alert could have been issued to Ohio authorities the moment Finch was identified as a prime suspect and his departure noticed, perhaps allowing them to hold him on a material witness warrant while Pennsylvania completed its paperwork. The lack of that seamless, preemptive interstate communication created the very window Finch exploited. Secondly, we must consider the limited scope of hot pursuit exceptions in cross-state scenarios. The legal definition of hot pursuit usually requires a continuous, uninterrupted chase from one jurisdiction into another, often initiated after a crime has been committed and the suspect identified. Finch's calculated move, days after the crime and before a warrant was formally issued, meant he did not fall under this critical exception. He had established a new residence. This highlights a systemic flaw. the disconnect between the rapid pace of criminal actions and the slower, more deliberate machinery of legal warrants and extradition. What if there were a legal mechanism for a probable cause hold across state lines, allowing local police to detain a suspect identified with overwhelming evidence for a finite period, giving the originating jurisdiction time to finalize their warrant? This case shows the devastating consequences of that gap. Finally, consider what modern forensic and investigative methods could reveal now. Decades later, cold case units armed with advanced DNA analysis, digital forensics, and even familial DNA searching could potentially develop entirely new avenues of evidence. While DNA samples from Jane Doe's body were collected in 1998, the technology for comprehensive analysis and database matching was embryonic. Today, minute trace evidence, skin cells, fibers, hair, could yield a definitive DNA profile, potentially linking Finch directly to the crime scene or the victim. Furthermore, modern digital footprints, archived phone records, early internet activity, or even later digital trails from his life in Ohio could be leveraged to establish a more concrete timeline or motive, strengthening an extradition case that might have been too weak or slow to prosecute effectively in the past. This isn't about retrying a case with old evidence, it's about applying new scientific power to old mysteries. For decades, the case of Jane Doe has sat as a chilling testament to justice denied, not by lack of evidence, but by a legal technicality that allowed a suspected killer to walk free. Her family lived with the crushing weight of knowing who was responsible, but being utterly powerless to see him face accountability. You cannot unsee the fact that the boundaries we draw on maps, the lines that delineate our states, can, in the precise confluence of timing and bureaucratic process, transform from administrative dividers into impenetrable shields for the guilty. A closed case in this instance simply means the file was shelved, not that justice was achieved. It means a victim's memory and the pain of their loved ones was trapped in a legal no man's land, forever marked by the gaping wound of procedural failure. This case reveals that justice is not just about guilt or innocence, it is also profoundly about jurisdiction, timing, and the terrifying spaces between the lines in our law. We have witnessed the profound impact of a single jurisdictional deadlock on a brutal murder investigation, and how a suspect's cunning exploitation of legal procedures led to decades of injustice. This is just one story, one forgotten file, but it reveals a universal truth about the fragile dance between crime, evidence, and the law. Do not miss what we uncover next.